Hello, I'm Brian Lynch, and I'm the licensed clinical social worker and the Chief Executive Officer at the Children's Community Programs of Connecticut. The following is a training video, Understanding and Working with Kinship Families. This video is based on the work of Dr. Joseph Crumbley and his video, Engaging Kinship Caregivers, Managing Risk Factors in Kinship Care. Please feel free to review the link displayed below. In this video, role plays, case presentations, and interviews with actual relative caregivers will be used to illustrate and highlight Dr. Crumbley's points in his video. Before we begin, I'd like to thank those people who have helped and contributed to the production of this video. I'd like to thank the Children's Community Program staff who have agreed to take part in the role plays and case presentations. Also to the supervisors and directors who have given their support to this project. Second, I'd like to thank the Family Focused Treatment Association for the resources and assistance they have given to help make this video. Especially I want to thank Melissa Devlin, Administrator, for all the support and hard work she has provided to the FFTA Kinship Project. In addition, I especially want to thank Jennifer Miller from Child Focus for the technical assistance and the expertise she provides to the FFTA Kinship Project. Her guidance and support on this project has been invaluable. Next, I'd like to thank Dr. Joseph Crumbley and the Annie E. Casey Foundation for the production of the video Engaging Kinship Caregivers. Dr. Crumbley has been a nationally recognized leader in the field of kinship care and has been a strong advocate for relative care. The Annie E. Casey Foundation has supported programs throughout the country and has been a leader in the Kinship First movement. Finally, and most importantly, I want to thank the families who participated in this project. They, like all kinship and foster families, are the real heroes of the work we do. We can never thank you enough for what you do every day to the children in your care. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy the Children's Community productions of Living and Working with Kin, a real-life experience.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Savinelli, and I'm the Program Director for the Therapeutic Foster Care and Kinship Programs of the Children's Community Programs of Connecticut. I'm very excited to be introducing the different segments of the training video that you'll be watching today. The first segment of this training video will be a role play by CCP staff. Jackie Morris, a TFC foster parent trainer, will be portraying a woman who has been caring for her 17-year-old grandson while his father, her son, has been incarcerated. The part of the grandson will be played by TFC staff member Taiji Williams, and CCP care manager and foster parent trainer David Richardson will be portraying Jackie's youngest son who also lives in the home. The part of the father will be played by Brandon Warner, CCP program supervisor. Brian Lynch will portray their therapist, helping them to work on Taiji's reunification with his father after his release from prison.
Oh. Good morning. My name is Brian, and I'm here at the Children's Community Programs. I'm sure you were told from your DCF worker that they wanted you to come in and have a chance to talk about your placement now, Ty, with your grandmother and your uncle. And so we're going to really be here to help and support you through this transition. So maybe it might be just helpful for me to hear, you could tell me a little bit about yourselves. David?
Mm-hmm. Well, I live with my mom. I am my first year in college, 21. And, I had some desire to go out of state, but due to this circumstance, I have to stay in state right now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Jackie?
Ty just came to the house recently. And I'm just, trying to adjust to having my son and my grandson in the home and being able to adjust to having to go back to limit setting and setting curfews and getting someone prepared to go to school and having another child possibly go off to school when I'm nearing towards retirement. At least
So
that
you
was my
have
hope.
2 children and 1 grandchild?
And one grandchild.
Okay.
Yes.
Todd?
17, high school. Dad just went to jail.
And were you living with your dad before?
Yep.
So you had to come live with your grandmother because of that?
Yeah. Dad got in trouble and had to come with my grandmother.
So might be helpful to just kind of hear from all of you how you feel about the situation you all find yourself in. I'd just be kind of interested to hear a little bit about that.
I think for me it's just disappointment. As much as I love my grandson and I want him here, I would prefer that his father, his parents, were able to parent him. But circumstances are what they are. So
you felt like you had to do what you did?
yes, yes, he's family. I wouldn't have my grandson in the system, so
Yeah.
no. Come stay with grandma and we figure this out.
How about you, Dave?
I really don't want him here, honestly. So, like I said in the beginning, it interfered with my schooling, things I want to do. I was responsible at his age. That's why I'm where I'm at now. And, my brother, did what he did, and he has consequences. That's why he's in jail. And this guy here is out of control, disrespectful, curfew, takes my things, and doesn't ask. So I'm not happy at all.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. How about you, Ty? What's your feeling about your situation?
Man, I don't want to be here either. Honestly, like, I'd rather just be home, like in my house. Like, my dad not there. Like, I'd rather just be there. I mean, I'm 17. I can take care of myself.
No, you can't.
I'm all right. I'm doing that right now. I mean, I make moves. I go to school here and there. I eat, get some sleep. I'm all right.
So you're not thrilled about being in your situation either?
I mean, what kid really would be happy with his dad being away from him, It was just me and him. So
How do you feel about what happened with your son?
Of course I'm not happy. Did I see signs of things that maybe I should have paid more attention to? Most likely, yeah. I would admit that. But I think overall, there were opportunities for him to go down a different path, but he chose that path. So what parent wants to say that they're happy that their son is incarcerated? No, I'm not happy he's incarcerated. That's nonsense. But the bigger picture is I would want to see if there's a chance for there to connect and redeem himself and be able to do some things that in the future he has that opportunity, and that he doesn't come out and be met with anger on this end and disappointment on this end.
So it sounds like there's a part of you that feels somewhat responsible for the situation you find yourself in.
In some ways.
How do you feel about that, David? Do you feel it's your mother's fault, or do you feel she created the situation you're in?
No, I think that's all on my brother. He chose the path. My mother's a great mother, and she always instilled in us what is expected and what values are and what morals are. And he was the oldest, and he had opportunities, like she said, and he chose to go the way he wanted to go and follow. Obviously he's not a leader, he's a follower, and that's what got him into trouble. So he went off on his own, and I don't know why you're shaking your head, because that's the truth.
What do you think about that, though?
it's not the truth, man. It's not his fault. Like, we had our issues. We had some things going on at the house. Like, life is stressful. Like,
He was doing stuff before you even knew what he was doing, so you talking on it like you know everything that's going on.
I was there. You was over here. You was in the house with grandma. I was with my dad. I was with him.
This is the problem.
So
He-
in 17
he
years,
knows
like I've been there.
So what do you feel about what your uncle just said?
I mean, it's like upsetting. Because for one, like that's your brother, you know? Like, you should be at least like defending them a little bit, trying to help him out. There's been no type of help. It's always just been just bashing him. It's like, who wants to help him out? Like, you know, like I kind of feel some type of way because I didn't try to help him out. Like I could have, you know. No one
How?
ever tried to help him.
He was doing stuff when you was 10, 11 years old. How do you think you could help a grown man?
So I could have did something. Who knows?
So the situation winds up to be that, you know, your son is incarcerated, your grandson's living with you who doesn't really want to do that. Your other son sounds very angry for being put in this situation. So do you feel like people are blaming you for this?
I don't feel blame, but I feel responsible.
You do. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, her being responsible for it. I mean, hey, look where he ended up. It's like, it sucks to say it like that, but hey, it's the truth.
She has no responsibility. She's done her job as a mother for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
she was working, you know, more than one job, trying to provide for both of us. And honestly, at his age, he should have been helping her out a lot more. But he wants to, almost like in reverse, he wants to be, you know, the child or the youngest, you know, doesn't want to grow up. So, you know.
Well, it does seem like there's a lot going on with all of you right now, and that we really are going to need to do some work around your adjustment here, because this is it. I mean, I think that your placement here, Ty, is the only option you have, and so it's figuring out how to make this work somehow. So hopefully, as we work together over the next months, we're going to be able to, you know, make this placement work, let people figure out how to live together, and, as you say, some peaceful harmony, and then address the question of when your dad returns and how that's going to affect everybody. Well, good afternoon, guys. It's good to see you again. I'm glad we're all back here. How's the week been?
It was a hard week.
It was a hard week. Can
It
you
was a hard week.
talk a little bit about that?
I think just the reality of just stating where we were from the last session,
Mm-hmm.
and really just, you know, trying to still figure out how to adjust to being in the same house and being with one another, and trying to decrease the anger that's presenting itself on one hand, on the other hand, just still in the adjustment of it all.
So, what do you think's going on, guys? Why are you two having so much trouble?
He's a hater. Like, everything I do, like, he has a problem with it. Like, he acts like he's my dad. Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chill out, relax, take a chill pill, go to college, and go do something.
I'm in college.
Then
And
go be there.
I probably do a better job than your dad did with you.
Hey, man.
Is that necessary?
Come on.
I'm just he said he
Come on.
set it up for me to say it, so I said it.
At the end of the day, though, you're not him. You're not my dad.
Thank
No one's my
God
dad.
for that.
Okay. Really?
See?
Mm-hmm.
See? Every day. Ever since I've been there. That's all I did. That's all I did.
Okay, guys. Enough.
So, Ty, is your problem with your uncle that it's about how you think he feels about your dad?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like,
How do you think he feels?
jealous of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous of my dad, man. Like, my dad was able to do what he wanted. Like, he lived his life. Like, yeah, he made some mistakes, but who don't? Who doesn't make mistakes, you know? And at the end of the day, like, my dad, he got money. He was getting money. Like, he was doing his thing. Like, everything that he wanted to do, my dad was able to do. But he didn't do it. And he got upset. So, and that's why he takes it all out on me. Because he wants to be like my dad. Yeah, my dad's in jail, whatever. But besides that, that's who he wants to be.
Do you think David is afraid you're going to turn out like your dad?
I just think he don't like me, personally. That's what I just think he don't like me.
And I just think they don't know each other. They haven't really been around each other because of what my son was doing at the particular time. You know, I made a conscious decision to try to keep him focused. So he was involved in sports, he was involved in choir, he was involved in things that will keep him more focused on having a different type of future. So their relationship wasn't really built. So to come in now and then have him to have some of the same mannerisms as his father, that's difficult. That's difficult.
So, Ty, David, was it hard for you to hear what Ty was saying?
It was so ridiculous as you saw me, chuckling and laughing, because it's just, why would I want to be his father? He's saying he's jealous of the money. When he's going to a halfway house. He's not coming home to his own house. He doesn't have anything. You know, the streets have changed. He definitely can't make it out there now. He was not a tough guy. He was a follower, like I said. So, you know, and as far as, you know, me thinking he's going to be like his dad, if he keeps it up this way, yeah, he will be. Same position.
Does that worry you?
I don't know if it worries me. I just, my thing is that you follow the rules. You put your head down. You do your work. You're a good citizen, and everything should work out right for you. So I don't know about worrying right now. You know.
So, can you understand that probably Ty misses his dad an awful lot?
I definitely can relate to that part. You know.
Todd, how do you feel about that?
About missing my dad?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I miss him, you know? Like, it's my dad. Like, what kid wouldn't miss their dad, you know? Especially, like, I'm 17. You know, like, it was just me and him. Like, my mom's, who knows what happened? Like, I don't really remember her. So, like, all my life, it was just me and my dad, and he just got took away, you know?
So, it must be hard to have lost your dad.
Yeah, it's probably, like, the hardest thing that I'm probably dealing with right now, you know? But, you know, like, no one understands that. They just want me to follow the rules and be home at this time and don't talk to this person and don't stay out don't go there, you know? It's like, let me be me.
So, Jackie, how do you feel about not having your son?
I think I feel a little bit conflicted because on one hand, I'm not okay with him being in jail, but at least I know where he is. On the other hand, you know, I think he should be home and he should be able to take care of his son. So what kind of teaching can he do once he's out? How is he going to steer himself and also steer his son? So I want him to be able to do those things. Am I equipped to teach him how to be a man and do what he has to do for himself and his son at this point? Thought I had done a pretty decent job raising my kids. So we got to this particular place, and now here we are. So now it's the next step. You know, where do we go? We're talking about transitioning. We're talking about, you know, when Dad gets out of jail and what it's going to look like, and he's going to be in the halfway house. I don't know what that's going to look like.
So Ty, it feels like do you feel like you're the only one that misses your dad like
Definitely.
you do?
Maybe, like, I think my grandmother missed her, like, a little bit. Miss him, like, a little bit, you know? Like, she's upset that he's there. Him, like, he don't care. Like, I feel like he happy that my dad is there.
I think your uncle cares. I just think it's difficult because it was difficult for them growing up and basically having that separation. It was two different paths, and that's my reality at this point. You know, being able to see you here and having a better look at what was and what's now.
But it must be hard feeling that alone with how you feel about your dad.
Being alone in a house full of people is the worst.
Yeah.
Man. Like,
It certainly sounds like we have a lot to talk about. And at some point, you know, it might be helpful if we could arrange for your dad to come to one of these meetings, because, you know, he seems to be the missing person in the room. You know, a lot of what we're talking about centers around the person who isn't here. And I wonder if we can maybe arrange a time for him to come and be here to hear some of the things and to explain some of the things. How would you all feel about that?
let's do it.
Okay.
What would be the goal?
I think to give you all an opportunity to talk to him and for him to talk to you about some of either questions about what has happened or to talk about the circumstance and the situation you're all in.
Did he did he do that vocational course that he supposed to have did?
I'm hopeful that he did. Because I really do want to see some change when he's out. And those are the fears.
If he comes and he hasn't accomplished anything, I really don't have much to say to him. Because he has another opportunity, at least when he comes out, he can possibly get a job to take him back and get him out the house. So.
Okay, well, let's kind of see if we can set something up in the next few weeks, and I'll talk to the people at the prison and see if we can get him released for one of our sessions. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good to see you. It's been another week, huh?
Sure has.
It's been a week.
You look a little frustrated, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm really tired. I'm sick of them both. And yeah, I'm sick of you both. You're the oldest. Get a grip. I'm sick of you both. And basically, you know, I'm tired of going back and forth with the arguing and the bickering. I come home from work. Whereas I was close to retirement, yeah, I'll be working forever, but that's beside the point. The bigger picture is I'm just tired of hearing the two of them going back and forth. Just nonsense, day after day. And this week was the worst of the weeks.
So what's going on, guys?
Well, I'm on my school break, so I'm good for the summer. Had a good GPA. He's 17. He needs to go out or go online and look for some jobs and get out the house. And for 5 or 6, 7 hours, he can be occupied doing something constructive instead of playing the game, wandering in and out the house mindlessly. So that's where the argument comes in, and the frustration, because he ain't doing nothing.
Okay. Well, could I be the parent?
Thank you.
Because I'm trying to understand. As
Thank
much as
you.
I hear you, school just ended. You're home for a week.
Yeah.
So you don't know what was happening prior to in terms of our discussion in regards to what he needs to do. So this is part of my issue. The parent doesn't get to parent because everybody else want to play the parent. This one want to tell me what he going to do. This one want to tell me what I should be doing to tell him what he needs to do. And I'm like, no, that's not working. So how are we going to change this up a little bit?
Yeah.
Because she's getting frustrated.
Sounds like you sound like you're throwing your hands up in the air.
Okay.
He needs to relax.
So Todd,
You both
what do you
need to
want?
relax.
What do you want to say?
Man, I'm tired of him trying to be my dad. Like, you can't tell me what to do at the end of the day. Like, you're like 4 years older than me. Like, right? I've beat dudes up way bigger and older than you. So
Okay, where are we going with this?
See where he goes
Like,
there.
We're not fighting your uncle. Like,
Chronologically, I'm 4 years. I'm way past you.
that's fine.
My mind is way past yours.
That's
You're
fine.
very immature. You're probably like around 12
if
or
he's so
13,
immature,
honestly.
why are you continuing to go back and forth
Because
with
he's
him?
in my
Exactly.
house.
Just let it go. It's
Exactly.
our house, and quite honestly, I pay the bills.
Exactly.
So if that's a problem for you, then you go get the job and you figure out where you going.
Stop trying to
Because
tell
that's
me
where
what
I am right now. Because y'all all about to get out my house. You keep
Well,
it up.
My money's saved. I know how to save my money.
Okay,
He don't
I'm
even
glad
he
you're
don't
able.
have an
I
account.
taught you how to save your money.
Right.
I'm glad I was able to do that. However, this is not working. So, Mr. Bryant, I really need to figure out how to manage all of this.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about where your grandmom is?
I mean, I kind of feel bad for her, like, because we do be going at it, but it's all because of him. Like, it's literally like his fault. Like, Mr. Brian. Like, when I tell you I'm in the house, I mind my business. I don't bother no one, and he'll just come out of nowhere like, "Oh, you should be doing this. You need to be doing this. Why is your stuff over there? Why is your stuff like? Come on, like, relax."
So you seem very angry. Why are you so angry?
Cause like this situation, man, is terrible. Like, it's terrible right now. Like, I can't see it like getting any better. Like, all the time it's just always me and him arguing. Then next, you know, me and him start arguing. Now me and her are arguing because I'm arguing with him. Now it's like two people fighting against one. It's like, come on, like, who wants to do that? Who wants to be there? You know?
So does your uncle remind you at all of your dad in any way?
Like, whenever like my dad gets like mad, like whenever he was mad, like that's all I ever see from him. Like I see it, and it's like, who wants to be like, I didn't like being around my dad when he was mad in the first place. So who wants to be around that every day? So
How about you? Did you get mad at your dad?
not, I don't know.
Are you mad at him now?
Answer the question.
Yeah, like why'd you have to go out that night?
Yeah. Why did you have to put me in the situation I'm in?
Yeah, like, I don't, like, you know, like, he knows I don't want to be here. He knows I'd rather be home, like, in the house with him. He knows that. So
So do you think maybe a part of why you get so upset with your uncle and why whatever he does aggravates you so much is that it may be he's like your dad? Or the feelings you haven't been able to talk about with your dad, it's coming out of him?
yeah, because I haven't like really been able to talk to my dad. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I haven't talked to him like a month and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
I think.
That's because he loses his privileges to talk on the phone.
Anyway, like I said, I haven't been talking to my dad. My dad. See how he jumps in like that? Talking to my dad in so long. So it's like, kind of hurts.
So David, Ty doesn't seem to have the corner on anger in this family here. What are you so angry at?
Well,
Particularly at him. And get past he leaves his socks on the
Yeah,
floor.
yeah. Well, besides those things that are annoying to me because I'm very clean, organized, all that stuff, I can pass that. It's his attitude, his mannerisms, his views on things, how he looks at things, you know, so differently from what any logical person would look at, and that reminds me of my brother. You know, so the only difference right now when I hear him talk, because I haven't really been around him, but hearing him talk since he's been with us, the only difference between him is the height and the complexion. Everything else is the same. That's what it feels like.
It feels like you're blaming Ty for the sins of your brother. Is it really his fault? what happened to his father?
No, I would not say it's his fault. I mean, he wasn't there. He didn't
Right.
do those things.
But so strongly you make the comparisons. Makes me think when you have all this anger based on those comparisons, it's like you're blaming him or you're getting your feelings out about him that you really should give to your brother.
Well, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
You know, being that you said that, being that I am a logical person, that kind of makes sense. And if I would say that I am angry at my brother, and what I would want for him is to see that he doesn't have to go that way. But my frustration is that the way he talks and how he looks at things is that it seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Like he is going to end up going the same path because it seems like he condones or glorifies what his father has done, and that's a problem.
Do you see that? I mean, when you talk about your dad, you're very defensive of him, which I understand. Okay, but did you see today, Dave, that he acknowledged that he is angry, and he did acknowledge, why did you do this to me? Okay, so, maybe his relationship with you and being as defensive as his father's because you're blaming him. And I would love to see if you two could really sit down sometime and have a conversation about your brother and your dad that isn't yelling and screaming and blaming, but really to talk about this man, that is in both of your lives and is a key person in your life. And with you, see, you three have such difficulty talking about him for any length of time. It winds up starting a conversation that winds up yelling, screaming, blaming, anger, resentment, and it goes nowhere. I think if we could figure out a way to try to change that conversation, it might be the beginnings of a building of a relationship with you three, then hopefully with him. Well, we're back, guys, and it's good to see you. As we planned from our last session, that we had asked Brandon to join us, your dad, your son, your brother, and that we felt that having him here today, we could at least begin a conversation about issues and questions of the past and what people feel, and then to figure out how do we move forward since you are transitioning back to the community, and to your family. So maybe you can start by telling us a little bit of how you feel about being here.
I mean, it has its good and its bad. I'm a little upset with some of the stuff that I've been hearing while incarcerated. My son has been calling me about how he just doesn't feel comfortable in the home because of my younger brother, who I'm shocked in because I took care of him when he was younger. I feel like until I get home, because I will be home, I'm home now at the halfway house, I will be getting my son back. We'll be fine, but while he's there and while I'm in this situation until I get home, I really feel like he should be treated a little bit better. And my mom knows better.
I know better?
You do, Mom.
What have I done? But take care of your son while you were sitting in jail.
He shouldn't be calling me and telling me he's not being treated fairly in the home. I shouldn't get those calls.
I'm doing my best, son. Unfortunately, you're not here to take care of him. So the comments between your brother and him, hey, it is what it is.
I just feel like you're allowing David to be his dad, and you know.
David can't be his father.
Damn right.
Nor do I want to be.
Wasn't talking to you.
And you taking his word without even talking to
You didn't talk to either of us.
Yeah, so
I don't feel like I need to talk to you guys. You guys don't reach out to me.
Well, that's part of the problem, right there, because you don't think you should listen. That's part of the problem. If you had listened, maybe you wouldn't be sitting there.
Have you tried to talk to him, though? Has anyone tried to talk to him besides me? You just said no one's talked to him. No one's tried to talk to him. You want him to listen, but you got to listen to him, too.
What do I need to listen to him about?
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's why he's in the situation that he's in now, because no one listened to him.
Nah, that's not
What
it.
about that?
When
That's
people
not-
were talking to him, he didn't want to listen to us. So after a while, you get tired of going against the wall.
We're supposed to be family, though. We're
You're
supposed to be
right.
family. And family, if something happens
But
to
your
me,
family became the streets. So therefore, I'd step back. So what was I supposed to compete with?
well, whenever I did leave him with you, things were fine. So I didn't see what the problem would be now. This shouldn't be an issue. Family's supposed to take care of family when needed.
That was when he was younger. Now he's becoming a young man. There's only but so much I can say to him, and there's only but so much I can say to your brother who's in college.
Listen, I was doing what I had to do. I'm a single father. I was trying to take care of my son. You know, his mom left me, Mom. You know that.
She left you, but that didn't leave your senses. You could have found another job. I don't care if you worked at McDonald's.
So,
wasn't working.
Brandon,
Hey.
do you get a sense that some people are pretty angry at you?
And I don't know why. I do, Mr. Bryan, but I really don't know why. This is not family to me. Family should have stepped up and took care of my son while I'm in this situation till I get home, and then that'll be it.
Is
But
the
this
boy
is
in my house or what?
Well, it's good to have you all back from last week. I know that was a difficult meeting, but I think some good things came out of it. And I'm just wondering kind of what did you all kind of take away from the meeting? What kind of stuck with you during the week since that meeting? I'd just be really interested to hear what you all took away from it.
My dad gonna be home in 6 months. I heard that. He gonna be home in 6 months. About to somehow he say he gonna move in to her house. I don't know why we doing that, but we're gonna do that. Then next thing you know, right back to square one. Doing me and my dad. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm glad you're excited.
Let's do it.
I'm still a little cautious
Mhm.
about what that looks like.
Mhm.
6 months is a long time. Things can happen in that 6 months, and I'm hopeful that it won't. I'm also questioning why Dad needs to come back to my house, but whatever. We'll talk about that a little bit more, I guess, as we get closer to the day. I don't know. A lot of good things came out of that, and some things that still are question marks for me.
I would assume that would be that way. David, how about for you?
Yeah, it was for me from the last session. I was just happy to hear that he acknowledged, that he did something wrong. I mean, there was still some, he didn't take ownership with everything. He still feels that no matter what he has done, what he does, family must be around. But I'll take that. That's his personality. But as far as him taking ownership of the situation, that was really good. I agree with my mom. I'm have some questions. Because people talk a good game. When they get out, they're going to be motivated through this. I'm just hoping that, my friend's dad said he's open to it.
Yeah, that was
so
big of
hopefully, if he gets the job, that'll be a motivation. And nephew, you guys won't be there that long after, But as we've had a couple of our conversations in the house, I know you are excited and think it's just going to be that, quick move with Dad coming home and then you guys moving. You got to slow down a little bit, because you may get disappointed, and then that may cause some, another failure of your dad, how you would look at that. So,
Well, I'm thinking positive because I going with what he said. I believe my dad, no matter what. Like 6 months, 6 months. Let's do
take a
it.
deep breath.
So I think your brother is trying to help you and caution you, but I don't know if you realize that sometimes when you talk to Ty, you tend to lecture him. which I think tends to turn him off and not hear what you're saying. I mean, what you said, your message is very strong. Don't set yourself up to be hurt. Don't set yourself up to have so high expectations that no one could meet. But it came across as you need, you do, you should, you ought. So I think you got to try to maybe talk a little different to him than the authority father figure or whatever that sounds like.
And I think even just now we were talking and referring to him as the brother, and really this is his uncle. And I think one of the things that I took away from us meeting was that maybe I didn't pay attention to how much he had really contributed to some of the upbringing of his brother. Yeah. And that these two and their experiences are just, it could seem like it would be brothers because they are close in age, but they're not. And not being able to see each other as this being the uncle figure versus the big brother.
I have to tell you, one of the takeaways for me was I was somewhat surprised that in our previous session, there was a lot of anger that we talked about, that all three of you were experiencing. And that, each one of you in some way were going to, maybe confront is too big a word, but you were going to really let him know how you were feeling. And I really was kind of taken, as an observer, kind of taken back a bit how no one really did that. It was kind of kept very mellow. Did anybody else notice that? Or did you find yourself restrained or felt like you wanted to say something and didn't?
I don't know. I just think that you see your son there, he's been away. I think there's anger that I hold, but at the end of the day, I really just want my family intact. So I think at that point when it sounds like he had an understanding of that he had something to do with his being incarcerated, that I think that kind of put some things in perspective. But even still, knowing that we still have to deal with what's still left to do, which is he has to get home, he has to get a job. And what does all of this mean, after all of this stuff has happened? And we still have our issue amongst ourselves.
How about you? I mean, you 2 sessions ago were really, boiling. What do you think happened?
Well, first, like I said, he took ownership, so that helped out. But then his demeanor, his tone of voice, before he left, he was very loud and very, very, very impulsive. He would talk loud and aggressive. And even though he was saying some things I didn't like not taking ownership or saying family should be around, he was just more calm. So normally, if we were at home, it'd be a reaction from her and from me would be different. But I was a little I didn't say anything, but I was a little taken back that he was a lot more relaxed.
How about you, Tom?
I was just happy enough to see him.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, I just wanted to see him. That was my whole thing. I had a lot to say, so much to say. I still do, but I think at the moment it was just like you're alive still, like you're still good. You know?
And it's clear that you just want your dad back. I mean, you're the loss that you feel having lost your dad, and having lost your mother, and I mean you're not having other siblings. I mean, he's very important to you. I mean, and that's all you can see is I want my dad back. And so it was clear that you just couldn't get your eyes on. I mean, you were like, come home right now with us. And which is nice to see. I mean, and at the same time, I know that, as you talked about a couple of weeks ago, being angry at him for making the choices he made, leaving you, and then having you to be put in the situation you're in. And I guess, what I would say to all of you is that, as much as, the situation in the interview kind of kept things for the reasons you just mentioned, why it went, as smoothly as it did, the session prior to that, when those feelings were pretty raw, those haven't gone away. And as we work through his return and re-entry back to the family and reunifying, I think we're going to have to still deal with that. Man, he needs to know how you feel, that there's parts of him that you're pretty angry at him for.
For the next segment of this video, we're going to be hearing about the actual experiences of real-life relative caregivers from a variety of perspectives. We're going to begin with CCP staff members. Kimberly Spina has been with CCP for 11 years and will be discussing a young woman whom she worked with for 4 years and helped her transition to a permanent placement with her godparents. Ryan McMahon, who's been a care manager with CCP for 5 years, will be discussing a young man whom he's worked with for about 2 years and has been through multiple placements. Both of these cases should serve as excellent examples for the types of unique challenges that kinship providers face.
So today I will be talking about a 14-year-old girl who came into care when she was 7 years old. She was placed into a traditional foster home after being removed from her parents for neglect and their substance abuse issues. She remained in that home for 5 years while they were looking for a kinship placement for her. During that time, 3 separate sets of family members came forward for her looking to be a resource. However, due to concerns over their biological parents and loyalty issues to her biological parents, the family members declined to be a resource for her. Ultimately, her godparents did step up and came forward for her, and 5 years after being placed in the traditional home, she was placed with her godparents. While she was in that home, she made a lot of strides with her behaviors, with her eating habits, and she was learning how to be a part of a family. While in that foster home, she made strides with her behaviors, with her eating habits, and overall her social skills. However, she was continuing to have visits with her biological family and her siblings. Her mother became inconsistent with those visits, and those visits ended up being ceased by the courts. Her father continued the visits. However, she felt that seeing her father was detrimental to her, as her father was talking negatively about her godparents and also feeding her information that she was coming home to him and that she was going to be reunited with her parents and her siblings. She made the decision to cease visits with her father. In the beginning, that seemed to be going well for her and her foster parents. She, again, continued to go forward in school, in the home, and began to thrive as a young lady. However, as her relationship with her father began to deteriorate, her relationship with her godfather also began to deteriorate. She was able to determine that she was taking out all of her anger and frustration on her godfather because of her anger towards her biological father. Eventually, this began to take a toll on her godparents as well. Her behaviors began to regress. She stopped bathing. She began to hoard food. She was tearing up her clothes, and she regressed to almost childlike behaviors. She also began to steal items, and she said she was stealing items to bring these to her brothers to make sure that they had what they needed. She was able to talk about that she felt hope that she was able to return to her family, and she was also very concerned about her brothers. And the reason she was concerned about her brothers is because when she was living with her biological parents, she was the caretaker even at such a young age. She was the one that made sure they had food. She was the one that made sure they took baths. She was the one that made sure that they got to school. So she was feeling a sense of guilt and concern over her siblings, which she didn't see on a regular basis and didn't know what was going to happen while she was residing with her godparents. The godparents were able to express their frustration and their concern, and they also felt very overwhelmed. They were not sure if they were able to provide what she needed. However, with support, from the providers, they were able to continue to provide what she did need, and she was able to express that she just wanted to live with family and wanted to be taken care of. So part of what made this transfer of guardianship successful was the godparents' willingness to overlook and be okay with the previous situation, understanding the needs of this child, and be willing to do whatever it takes to make sure she had what she needed. They were very, very committed to her and did not have any fantasy about what the challenges would be. They wanted to make sure that she was taken care of, that she had the things that she needed so she could grow up to be a successful young lady.
Today I'm going to be talking about a youth that came into our program as a kinship placement when he was about 15 years old. He came into care because he had started a fire accidentally in his parents' basement. There's been a few different explanations as to why this happened. His explanation is that he was smoking marijuana, and when he heard someone come in the house, he accidentally started the fire. He was arrested and brought to the hospital, at which point his parents felt that they were no longer able to care for him. They cited his behavior concerns throughout his childhood as the reason that they felt at this time they were not able to care for him. When this happened, his older brother, who was about 26 years old at the time, stepped up to be a living resource for him. His brother was single with no kids of his own and lived in a one-bedroom apartment. So after spending a couple weeks in a residential program, this youth was transitioned to his brother's home, where he would be sleeping on the couch until his brother could come up with other accommodations. The challenges for this family started right away. It was a very difficult situation. The youth was not doing well in school. He was not attending school most of the time, and his behaviors were very, very difficult for the brother to handle. He was smoking marijuana regularly. He was out all hours of the night, and it was just a challenge from the day he stepped in the house. It was also the plan for the brother to move to a bigger place with the stipend he was receiving for caring for his brother, but his brother became reluctant to do that because his brother's behaviors were so outrageous. He was afraid that if his brother wasn't going to be there, he wouldn't be able to pay for the bigger apartment himself. As the caseworkers, we started to realize that there were a lot of things going on behind the scenes that made things extremely difficult for both the brother and for the youth. The biological mother was still very involved with both the brothers, and it came to our attention that there were a lot of things going on where she was kind of running things outside of the home in terms of punishment, in terms of discipline for the youth that was in the home. The brother felt that he was being undermined by the biological mother and felt he was not able to kind of parent him the way he wanted. And you also started to see that they were having a difficult time with their shift in roles. The brother was having a difficult time being the guardian. He was still his younger brother. They weren't that different in age. And the youth was having a difficult time listening to some of the direction of the brother. Unfortunately, after about 6 months, there was an incident involving the brother and his friends that led the case managers to believe it was not a safe environment for the youth to remain there. Upon leaving the brother's home, the youth was placed in a traditional therapeutic foster care home for about 3 weeks, where he did very well. He did a good job connecting with this foster family. He was engaging, and he seemed to be doing very well. Unfortunately, after about 3 weeks, he decided to not return home one day. Didn't really give a reason. The foster parents did not really understand because he appeared to be happy and doing well. It turns out that he had run into his biological mother in the community, and after having a conversation with him, he felt that it was not in his best interest to remain in a therapeutic foster home. A biological cousin who saw him on the streets late that night stated that he could come stay with her. So that following day, the cousin called the state and said that she would like to be a living resource for this youth. And the state did their background checks and determined it was a very good match. Things started out very strong with this cousin. The youth rebounded. He started attending school. He started, the behavior concerns decreased. It was a lot of positive feedback. He started attending therapy. And in general was really making strides to be returned home. The biological parents were happy to see how well he was doing and as he was moving towards being able to return home. Unfortunately, after a few months, when the biological parents were approached about this youth returning home, they still felt that they had not seen enough consistently for him to return home. The youth took this very, very hard. He felt that he had tried his best to prove that he would be able to manage in their home. He became very angry. He became very distant. He did not want to engage in services. He would not vocalize how he felt. Unfortunately, he started to act out again, getting arrested several times. School once again became an issue. He would not engage with any kind of clinician, any kind of social worker. And eventually it started to deteriorate into a point that it was looking like it was not going to work out. Luckily, the foster parent, his biological cousin, was very, very committed to him and was able to kind of weather the storm and got through the difficult time. This youth started to engage. He started to vocalize some of the reasons he felt that he, about his anger and things like that. He described a lot of loyalty issues. He felt that even though he was living with his cousin and he appreciated what she was doing for him, that still was not his parent. So he felt that he was, home was where he belonged. He also vocalized his anger towards his parents because he felt that he had been doing well enough that he should be able to return home. So for a while, he started to talk about things, but unfortunately, he had gotten wrapped up in some things that were not exactly great situations for him. He was hanging out with people he probably shouldn't have hung out with, and arrest continued. Unfortunately, he found himself in a situation where he was arrested at the age of 16 years old, and the crime was severe enough that he was tried as an adult. He has currently been incarcerated for approximately a year and is working towards being released at about his 18th birthday. His cousin, who he was staying with, has stated that she will be a living resource for him once he is discharged. He still has a lot of feelings of guilt, loyalty, and ambivalence about the whole situation. He vocalizes that he still does not really feel that he has a place that he belongs, and he does not feel that he has the support that a kid his age should have. Several of the situations we've talked through about today in this video impacted this youth's ability to both remain with both his brother and his cousin. His cousin in particular had a very difficult time dealing with some of the biological family's feelings about this youth being in her home. There was a lot of jealousy from the biological parents, a lot of resentment, and a lot of guilt for the youth. The youth had a difficult time dividing his loyalty, but like I mentioned, the cousin was very committed to him. She really didn't feel, she got pressure from outside family members and was made to feel like she was doing something wrong, but her commitment was completely to this youth. She was able to stand up for what she felt was in his best interest, regardless of how it made her look within her own family. But it was very clear that the other family members definitely had a role to play with how this placement went, both with the cousin and the youth. Because it was just a lot of dynamics that went into it, and unfortunately, as case managers, it's not always easy to see these because they're behind closed doors. So we are hoping that when he is discharged from his juvenile detention facility, that he will be ready to come back to the community and hopefully work towards bettering his life when he gets out.
Up next, Care Manager David Richardson is going to be speaking with two CCP foster families who have had direct experience with kinship care. Patricia Blake is currently a kinship provider to her two grandchildren and is actively working through several of the issues that have been discussed thus far throughout the video. Miss Junie Johnson has been a therapeutic foster parent with CCP for 12 years. Recently, she served as a placement for a 4-year-old boy and, over a period of a year, helped him transition to paternal relatives who lived in another state.
So, Ms. Blake, how long have your grandsons been living with you?
They've been living with me now for, since January of 2017.
Mm-hmm. Wow, okay. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. What has been how the challenges been for you, if you can rate it on a scale?
I'd probably have to say 10, since I got them, because a lot had happened with them, and then just trying to get them where they need to be, structurally, it's been really a challenge, having the voice.
Yeah.
Especially at my age.
Right.
But I didn't want them just in the system anywhere, so.
But when you got the call from DCF asking, can you become their foster parent and they live with you, what was going through your mind?
It was like, oh, you got to be kidding. I had just, I was, of course, retired, so I was traveling with my younger sister off and on, and I had just moved out of an apartment that I had in West Haven, and I moved in with my sister in Milford, and I had given everything that I owned to the new tenant, so I had absolutely nothing and nowhere to go. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to see what I can do, I says, because I have absolutely nothing right now. But, DCF stepped right up and said that, if there's somewhere that you can move, we will help, secure the rent, and within 2 weeks, I had a place.
Yeah.
I made it my goal to make sure that, I had somewhere that I could take the children.
Was there ever any reluctance or ambivalence about, you thinking about, I'm retired, I'm traveling? Did you have any reluctance or ambivalence about taking on, this new task or new role?
Not really. I was a little fearful because I knew that the role would be different now. I couldn't be just grandma. I had to take the role of mom and dad. And I knew it was going to be a hard thing. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I had a lot of support from my church group. Yes. And they've been a blessing to my whole family from the time that I had received them, because when I did get the apartment, they provided the extra furniture that I need. DCF took care of all the bedding and stuff in the beds, and so I was so grateful for all that, so they, we managed.
So speaking of supports, you have your church family, which is great. What about, DCF and, CCP as a therapeutic agency? How have they been?
They're totally awesome. If there's any issues that come up or any problems I have, I only need to make the one phone call. My phone calls are returned immediately. DCF has been wonderful throughout the whole thing, and my CCP, the therapists there, and all the people in that facility as well. If there's any issues, I just need to make the one phone call. They're there for me, and I feel really humbled by that, that I don't have to wait days before I hear from them.
So, dare to say the supports with your church family and the agencies have really been helpful in those times of when it was tough.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't think I could have done it without them, there for me, especially for the boys. My boys are very, very active.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And I know your faith itself has been, you've talked about it before, that has been really important to you and has helped you get through.
Absolutely.
Which is a great thing. So looking at when they came in to care or came into your home and where they're at now, about a year later?
Year and a half. Yeah.
Comparing when they came in with their structure, their routine, their emotions, their attitudes, where do you see them now? Have you seen growth?
I have seen growth. My oldest grandson is my special needs child, and he's just an incredible person. He's so smart, but he was never able to really express his feelings, and through therapy and everything, he's been able to bring it all out because, they've gone through the trauma process, and he's done really, really well with it. Right. Understanding what happened, and being able now to really just bring out the feelings that he has, whereas before he would just keep them all bottled up,
Right.
And now we're also, with my little grandson, taking him through the process of, getting his feelings in check, where he can express himself as to how he feels about things. They've really come a long way. As far as structure, I make sure they have that, my oldest grandson, he gets up in the morning, he does his devotions, he makes his bed, he reads me his Bible verse, and then he's all set to watch a little bit of TV, before breakfast, as well as the little one, he's just my little one.
Yes.
But they've come a long way.
That's really good to hear. That's really good to hear, to see the growth that they had.
Yeah, their personal hygiene, the caring for, the things they have, their rooms, keeping everything in order. They're just, they're great.
Yes. I know a lot of times when things happen, in families, grandparents or, it could be a parent that's not living with a child and something happens, sometimes they may blame themselves. Have you ever struggled with that, saying you could have done something about it, you should have known, or do you look at it as what happened is because of other people's neglect? And
I want to say that I have to look at that as the parents' selfishness and just being into themselves because they were removed because of drug addictions and alcohol, and it was their selfishness that came to the point where the children were actually removed from the home. Did I know about it? No, I didn't, because they hide it very well. If I had known, I think that I would have took the steps to remove them and bring them with me, because I don't think that they should have witnessed any of what happened. They should have never been through anything of what went on,
Okay. Do you have any faith, or do you ever think that their parents will at some point get themselves together to get them, to be able to, to get them back and live a productive life and, take care of them as they should?
Honestly, to answer that honestly, I don't know. I pray about it all the time, because it's like, these are your children, Are you choosing an addiction over what you could give your children? I find it very hard. I would love to see them get themselves together, get themselves to the point where they realize that, hey, this has got to stop at some point in life, and I've got to get my children back. Do I see it happening? In all honesty, I don't see it happening.
Okay.
I pray that I would be wrong, that they would prove me wrong, but I don't see it happening.
Okay. Do you ever see your grandsons, kind of like their mannerisms, their attitudes, or same things they do like their parents? And if so, does that worry you if you see things that, that they will kind of fall into the same type of lifestyle, or are they too young to even think something like that?
I'm hoping they're too young to think something like that. I do see some of the mannerisms. My youngest grandson, I worry about. He's only 6, but he has a lot of aggressiveness, which to me I think could be from what he had witnessed with his older brother. We try not to really focus on it so that, his mind gets away from that. I just hope that they don't fall into the same.
Yeah. When you see that, do you ever say things, like, this is what your father, this is what your mother does, or you just deal with the behavior at that time and explain to them that that's not okay?
Yeah, I deal with the behavior at the time because I don't want to put fingers on the father or the mother. A child loves their parents. It doesn't make any difference what the parent does in life, either parent. The children love their parents, and I don't ever want to say anything bad about their parents in front of them. That's something they need to figure out as they get older. Right. It's not something that I should be telling them, oh, your mom's bad or your dad's bad. That's not my place.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago that you're hoping, but you're not really sure if they will ever get themselves together. Are you prepared to take on, that full guardianship of your grandsons if need be?
I am, for as many years as the Lord will give me on this earth, to take care of these boys. I will do the best that I can to the best of my ability. I don't want them just to go anywhere. Yeah. They're very special to me. I don't want to lose them. My oldest grandson tells me, Grammy, will you stay with me forever? You'll never leave me. And I say, no, I'll never leave you. And then he comes back. He says, well, if God decides he wants you with him, then you're going to go. And I said, yes, but you'll be taken care of, And he's happy with that answer, But they know that I'm not going to leave them.
Good. So thank you for coming, Miss Junie Johnson.
You're welcome.
How long have you been a foster parent?
I would say close to 12 years, going on 12 years.
Wow. If you can describe those 12 years in like a word, what would it be?
I would say somewhat challenging.
Challenging, okay. I know as time went on, this DCF worker, which we both work with, really good DCF worker, they located a paternal aunt and uncle, in another state. And that took about, I would say, maybe about 10 months to get that, all the paperwork done and all that kind of stuff. So then they came into the picture. How, as you being a foster parent and, the department, DCF, deciding to, transition him to biological family in time, how was that with you communicating and knowing that, you got connected to this young child, and he connected to you, and then knowing that he's going to live with biological family, paternal aunt and uncle. How was that with you, communicating with them and working with the department and CCP and them as the potential guardians of that young child?
Well, I started off, Danielle, which was the social worker. She arranged for them to call when they would come and pick him up, which they lived in another state. They would pick him up. They would call first and let me know they're on the way or how close. I didn't want them to come direct to the house, so we met at McDonald's, and that worked out fine. First, he knew who his uncle was, so when we went to McDonald's, they wasn't there at first, and so when we sat down to have sandwich, and then the uncle came in and he ran over to him. That's how I got to meet him. And we would meet at McDonald's each time they would come. They would come every other weekend. And then he would take and meet him I would meet him at McDonald's once I got to know him. And after I felt comfortable, he would come. I let him come by the house, and he would come to get him on a Friday evening, and he would stay till that Sunday afternoon. He would bring him back. That was part of the transitioning him into their home. As it went on, getting closer to his time, he would go it started out every other weekend. Then it started getting every weekend. And then it finally came to that time, which they would call during the week, see how he's doing, and talk with me, whatnot. And then he transitioned. I sit down with him to see how he was feeling about moving with them, and he told me. Also, I can remember going to therapy with him, and they hadn't told him yet.
Okay.
And he drew the picture. I think you was there that time as well. He drew the picture, and in that picture he had himself and a picture of me. And he told me that it was for me and that he loved me. The therapist asked him, she did ask him who told him that he was going to be going to live with his uncle and aunt. And he looked up, he was playing with something. He looked up at me, he said, Miss Joni told me. And he was a little angry because he wanted his mom to tell him.
Okay.
But then that was his last session, and then he was going to be going.
Right.
He left in February, that February, and it was just before Valentine's Day. We sit down to the table, and he wanted to give Valentine cards to some of the people at the church, and I would give him the spelling of their names. He did that before he left. I sit him on my lap, I remember doing that, and he said to me, he looked up at me, he said, Miss Joni, can you go with me? And I explained to him that the other child that was in the home, I couldn't leave and go with him because she had to have somewhere to stay. And at that time, I think that might have been about, it was that Friday night.
Yeah.
I remember. And so that weekend, went by, it was getting closer, and we started packing, clothes and stuff. But I don't think that it hit him that he was really going. And when that day came, a few people came over to say goodbye, pay their little respects, and give him gifts. I never forget that day because it snowed. And
Yes.
as he was leaving, he got to the back door. He kept waving. That was the hardest part. He waved, he kept coming back. He got through the door, a few steps, and he kept coming back again. He came back again. And he gave me a hug, and he kept saying, I love you, Miss Julie. He got to the steps to go down. Came back again. He just couldn't seem to get in that van. And I had to actually tell him he had to get in the van and go, that I would see him. He would see me again. And he finally got in, but he came back and gave me another hug. I had to tell him again, you have to go. I threw my hand up, this means I love you. He did the same thing. He finally got in, and he was at the window doing the sign, I love you.
And finally, Brian Lynch will be speaking with Claudia Fidalgo, CCP's Therapeutic Foster Care Program Supervisor. Brian will be speaking to Claudia about her personal experiences with kinship care while she was growing up.
I'm happy to be here today with Claudia DeFalgo, who is our clinical supervisor in our treatment foster care program. Claudia not only is our staff member here at the Children's Community Programs, but she also was a child who experienced kinship care and has agreed to be interviewed today to talk about her experiences in kinship care and what lessons she learned from that she has brought to the work now in working as a supervisor of our both treatment foster care program and our kinship treatment foster care. Welcome, Claudia, and thank you for agreeing to be with us. So could you tell us a little bit about your experience and what was it and how it started, and be interested to hear more about it.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up with my grandparents. I was adopted by my grandparents when I was a year old. So I was born to a young mom. She was 20. My dad was in Portugal at the time, so I didn't meet him until I was 3, and actually didn't really live with him until I was 11. So didn't know my dad much. Grew up calling him uncle, actually, because all of my cousins called him uncle, and I didn't know that he was my father until he came from Portugal. So the reason why I went to live with my grandparents is because I was born with epilepsy. And my young mom, not very well off where my grandparents were. So grandmother and grandfather both took me in, but my mom didn't live too far. So I'm from West Africa, Cape Verde Islands. So she really was a couple of streets over. So she would come over, she would still, take care of me, feed me, breastfeed me, and all of that. But my grandparents were really my caretakers. Growing up, I think I kind of knew that I wasn't like a part, it was strange for me that still had my mom, didn't really know my dad, and then was with older grandparents that I called mom and dad. And then I had aunts and uncles. There were 14 of them. So
wow.
So they all kind of took turns taking care of me. So when my grandparents started immigrating to the U.S., they left when I was 2.5. So my grandfather came first, and then my grandmother came. So I was going from home to home with my aunts and uncles.
In Portugal.
In Cape Verde Islands.
Cape Verde Islands.
Yes. So my oldest aunt took me first, and then when she was coming with her children, she already had children at that point, then my other aunt took me, and then as she started having her own family, then I went to my uncle. So I was shifted around to different homes. And that was challenging because, again, it was that point where I didn't know where I fit. I had cousins. I mean, they were taking care of me, but there was that piece that was missing. There was like a broken piece. One, I was left by the 2 parents that I knew.
Right.
And that was hard enough. And then now I'm in different homes as things started to shift for each family. And finally, I ended up in the U.S. Lived again with my grandparents in Massachusetts and Boston for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you at this time?
I was 9 years old when I came to the U.S. All those times I was going between homes with aunts and uncles.
That must have been difficult.
It was, like I said, it was very, I just didn't know where I fit,
Right,
you know?
right.
Not that they didn't show me love,
Right.
but it was different kind of love. And, you know.
There was no sense of permanency.
There was no sense of permanency because I didn't know where I was going to be. And then also the challenging part of it was that you felt the guilt because, you know, I was a burden.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And my grandmother, who was a matriarch, wasn't going to let anything happen to me. Mm-hmm. And my mom was completely off the picture at this time because now I was in a different island. So I left my mom at 2.5 years old as well. Wow. So never lived with my mom. Just got to know her in the last maybe 10 years that she moved to the U.S. Mm-hmm. So have a relationship now, but didn't really know her growing up. My grandparents died when I was, you know, my grandfather when I was 11, my grandmother, you know, a couple of years when I was in my 20s. So I didn't really get to, you know, so I moved in with my dad at 11 with my stepmom. And then had a whole new set of siblings.
Wow.
And here I am again in the position where I'm like, I don't know where I fit, you know. But, you know, through it all, in our country, our community, it takes a village. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was, no one was going to let myself, and I had other cousins too that was in similar predicament, where their mom also, because of war, they were in another part of Africa, they kind of left the kids with the family to raise. So I saw some of the trauma, some of the, you know, the toughness that we had to go through to kind of find our place in the family. And it's always that feeling of, I don't know if I'm here, but I don't know, there's a piece that's missing. Right.
Yeah. You know, we talk about in foster care, you know, multiple placements and how, you know, that's traumatic on a child, how many each time they have to move. Well, you know, you had multiple placements within a family.
Absolutely.
And although maybe not as traumatic as if they were strangers, it's still that lack of permanency and that lack of, you know, that I'm here forever kind of thing. And then I can only imagine, you know, having to deal with also the challenges of coming to the United States and having to make that adjustment. I mean, that must have been very difficult.
Yeah, it was. And I think for me, you know, the family still tried to do the best that they can to, you know, make sure that I knew I was a part of the family. But I don't know how to explain it, but there's still that missing piece.
Sure. And
till this day, there's still that missing piece. Although I have a sense of family, it's still the missing piece because I didn't grow up in a traditional sense.
Right. Now, you stayed with your father until you went off to school, or what?
Yes. So I stayed. So I stayed with my dad until I moved out when I was about 19 years old. And I'm still connected with my stepmom. You know, who is like a mother to me.
Sure.
And then my siblings. So I'm here in Connecticut with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be is, you know, that's a fascinating life experience, and you know, it does illustrate many of the struggles of kinship care, but also from a child's perspective. You know, we tend to focus sometimes on the struggles of the parents or the relatives of, but you know, there is struggles that also go along with the child of, for you having that so many placements and that lack of permanency and stability, that although it's your family and you knew people that were going to take care of you, you know, there still wasn't that identified person that was there for you for your whole life.
Absolutely.
So I guess one of my questions would be, you know, here you are now in as a clinical supervisor in a TFC kinship program. What's the lessons you have learned from your experience, and what do you feel, in terms of your practice issues that you draw from when you're working with our kids and families and kinship and foster care?
Yeah. So I think, as I was watching the role play, that dynamic, right? So that part of who is who in the family. So I think identifying those and then really focusing on what the strengths are in helping each individual. Because for the child, again, I think the missing piece is always, even though I'm here, because of all of the issues that come up, I don't know if I fit in. So how do we help that child to learn how to fit into that family? Because there is going to be the guilt. There is going to be the overwhelming feeling of, now there's a burden, right? Even though it may not show, there's a burden. Because financially it's going to be a burden.
I'm sure that that's something you certainly brought with you from your experience, that although you had wonderful relatives that took you in, it was still, they had a burden. They had another mouth to feed. They had another...
And you feel it.
Yes.
It may not be said, and sometimes it is said.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do have family members that will say it.
So you can identify a lot when the kids say that. In the role play, when Taji said, I don't think I fit, I'm not comfortable, I don't feel like I belong to that, I think you must identify with that.
Absolutely.
Very much. And I think in your supervision of our staff, you probably let them to really understand how significant that is in their work with kids. But that's a very important learning experience. So I want to thank you, because I think sharing your story really brings to light, what it is like from a child's perspective who has gone through this, your growing up years with multiple family members taking care of you. And, fortunately, they were family members. Wouldn't it have been awful if they were strangers,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So on one hand, there's a great sense of thankfulness that I had them, but at the same time, it was still some of that, where do I belong?
Yeah.
Do I really belong in this? And so thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure this will be invaluable to the people who will be watching this video who do the work that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you have found this video to be helpful and informative and will help you with your kinship training needs. For further information, or if you have additional questions, please contact us at ccp-ct.org. Thank you.